Nicola, thank you very much.
Thank you. The words are how to take the idea that you have at 1 a.m. and turn it into a multi-million company. And I'll present it today, but I just want a quick question. Has anybody here got a mum who's like a multi-millionaire? No, okay. Then that's kind of cool, because there are some ideas in this presentation that potentially only your mum would buy. And I probably wouldn't have invested in any of these. But what's really interesting is that pet rock one. Is anybody from the 70s? Like, okay, there's a couple of us. That pet rock one, I really wanted one of those, and they were $3.95. They started in San Francisco. And I came from a council estate, so my mum did get me one, but she said that she'd lost the packaging. So basically, the pet rock sold 1.5 million units and made that guy a millionaire. So, rock in a box, I would never have invested in that. The Rubik's Cube, which you'll be very familiar with, has sold 350 million of those things, and their 2017 retail figures were $250 million, which was a 45% increase on the year before. Plastic toy. The last one I've put in tribute to the fact that my hubby gave me a cold this week, and it's the hay fever hat from Japan. I'm not really sure whether that's going to make millions. The jury's out on that, but hey, the fact that they got somebody to invest in it is nothing to be sneezed at. Puns like this will happen. I apologise in advance. So, to actually create this kind of business is often in the sort of build it and they will come model, and that is one of the two models that businesses tend to run on. Has anybody seen that Field of Dreams film with Kevin Costner? A couple of you. So the premise is Ray, a farmer in Iowa, is in a cornfield and he hears a voice that says, if you build it, he will come. And he has a vision of building a baseball field. And it all works out well in the end, because Shoeless Joe Jackson and some of his baseball greats turn up to play ball because it's a movie. And they're ghosts because it's a movie. It's actually a really good movie, but kind of strange. The other model is to go with the tried and trusted model, and that might be more what we'll talk about today, because in 2016, Bloomberg did a study, and it said that 8 out of 10 startups fail in the first 18 months. Kind of sucky. And the top 3 reasons were lack of cash, no plan, or lack of clear value proposition. And the rest were to do with sales, marketing, and management. Now, I'm not going to talk to you today about raising cash, but I am going to touch on all of the other things. And the great thing is the figures are better now. So just over half of businesses now pass that 18-month mark, which is good. That's just over half, 50-50 toin costs. And I want to really massively increase your chances of success, so that if you do have that idea at 1 a.m, that you might stand a chance of validating it and seeing if it's actually a goer and whether it might make you some cash. So we're going to cover today all of the things that we wish we'd known 10 years ago when Ian sat in his bedroom. And I'd like to introduce you to Ian, our genius creator. So this is Ian. He's the founder of Titania and the creator of Nipper Studio, and I'll let him just say how he came up with that idea.
Hi, so excuse the picture, and I really am...
He looks so cute in it!
No, I really am still fond of the Amiga, but there's no place in the modern world, unfortunately. It really was, I was a penetration tester at the time, and there were a lot of things about the job that really bored me. Things that were repetitive, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And wherever possible, I'm guessing just like yourselves, I tried to use automation and scripts and various other things to try and accelerate what I was doing. I turned up for a job one day and they gave me 30 configurations from Cisco devices. And at that stage, it was like, hell no am I going to go through 30 configurations manually. And there really wasn't a lot of great tools out there that could actually help me as a penetration tester get the kind of information I wanted out of those configs. So really, Titania started and Nipper started because I thought, no, I'm actually going to spend the time, instead of a third of a day for each device, kind of going through it line by line, trying to work out where there may be security issues. I thought, no, I'm going to automate this thing and start letting the computers work for me rather than me work for computers. So that's what I did. And Nipper started off very simply as a PHP script many years ago. Really embarrassing, but it was really quick for me to just put something together. Obviously, it's very different now, and there's a whole team behind. Well, I'll pass back.
So Ian founded the company literally in his bedroom when somebody came and offered him some cash. And he went, oh, I need a vehicle to accept this cash. Now, what was really interesting is before he'd done that, he ran it in terms of, please give us donations to help build this thing and make it better. And in the 2 years you ran it in that model, how many donations did you have?
One.
So there was a really good reason that we had to go commercial to buy people to help us build this. So,
not to mention Cisco are going to charge £70,000 for their devices.
Well, let's cover that later. So essentially, we had to go commercial to actually make it into what it is today. So this is our Walt Disney, and as you know, Walt Disney was a massive creator. Now I'm married to this man, and I'm just going to say that before I say that Ian's brain is like a pinball machine. It's constant ideas. I've spoken to some of the people in this room today. I know you're the same. I also say lottery ball generators because they just keep coming out. And sometimes I'm pushing them back in at the other end because they're not quite ready. He once woke me up at 1 a.m. while asleep to tell me about a tissue app. I'm not even going to go further into that conversation. But essentially, Ian is Walt Disney. I'm his Roy Disney. So when you are looking to build a company, one of the things that you want to identify is, are you the idea creator or are you the integrator and poker of balloons with pins? I'm the Eeyore of the crew. So Ian will often come up to me with an idea and I'll go, not sure that's really ready for the market yet, which is my code for put it back in the box and hatch it some more. So I've done quite a lot of stuff in the mentoring space, mainly for building businesses, and I work with the DIT and cyber accelerators, and I do quite a lot of speaking and writing on the future of things, because that's where I am. I'm not a technologist, I'm a strategist. So this I put in because it was one of our best days ever when we went to go meet the Queen. So Ian built it, I helped build the company, and we both therefore got to meet the Queen, which was really cool. And that was for the innovation that he created, because he was the first in the world to create it, which was really, really fabulous. And what we're really lucky to say is that in building some of that stuff, and in the fact that Ian's mates were all pen testers, and pen testers like to introduce cool things to people, and they all go to really big companies because they're the people that will pay pen testers. We were also really lucky to build a fantastic range of clients, and these are just some of the ones that will let us tell you about them. So how did we get clients like these? Well, Ian's already mentioned that he didn't want to spend like 15 days and then all of the report writing to do his first iteration. But essentially, why we grew was because we added value. And we help our clients get to their goals quicker. And this is the sort of start of what you'll need to look at to see whether the idea that you've had at 1 a.m. has got legs for other people, you know, whether they might be interested in getting value off you in exchange for cash from them. So one example recently, so obviously the product's developed, was we went to a military base and we spoke to some of their auditing teams there, and I think they said, how long did it take?
Well, they were using spreadsheets and stuff like that.
So they were using spreadsheets to do their audits, and it took them about a month, I believe, to do one base, and now it takes them less than a week, a few days. So that's the kind of time scale. And it isn't that we're losing people. There's a people shortage. It's we're taking, you guys are cyber generals, but you shouldn't be filling sandbags or doing housekeeping. So this is the way of releasing some of that stuff that's essential, but boring, and automating it. So when you want to test your value, there's going to be a lot of book things here. I know you'll be able to get the slides afterwards, but you may want to open your Amazon page now. So the one that I would recommend to anybody is called the Strategizer series. It comes in a really cool book like that. If any of you want to nick any of these later, please come and just help yourself, because these books are a fortune and you probably only need a few pages. But essentially what it does is it lets you test your concept by putting yourself in a potential client's position. So the page looks a bit like this. So what you're looking at is, what is this person trying to do? Well, I need to be able to harden my configurations on firewall switches and routers. What are their fears? It's a Cisco device and I'm only trained on Juniper, or I haven't got time, whatever that might be. What are their needs to do it faster, to do it consistently, yada, yada, yada. And all of your time should be spent on that right-hand side, really unpacking it. Just to give you an idea, Titania go off with the leadership team once a year for probably about 4 or 5 days to just a hotel or a site, and we just get out of our business so we can work on the business. We spent 1.5 days doing this, because we do it every now and again, just to refresh what are people still looking for and have their needs changed. And then from that, you then create your product. So we were really lucky because Ian was the first customer of the product. So he built what he wanted. And to give you an idea of what that might look like, if you were, say, creating something for a startup accelerator, you can see if you were starting a business, bearing in mind cash is one of the problems, what are you going to want? So you're not going to want to know, you're going to want to know what's my rent going to be if I have to get a little office, and you want to have that as consistent, right? You're going to want to know what are maybe an employee cost going to be. You're going to worry about funding. You're going to worry about, how do I market stuff? I've never done that before. How do I sell this? Now, Ian actually worked for a pen testing company while he built his business. So he took his salary and he paid somebody else to develop another product alongside. So his first hire was another developer. And his third hire was somebody to answer the phones, because these people kept phoning him up and interrupting his coding time to try and give him money, which was really inconvenient.
It was inconvenient.
It was really inconvenient. So I was the third employee. Sorry, the third sort of second. I was first salesperson employee. Essentially, I then went, oh, okay, what happens if we actively answer these things and properly speak to people? And as it turned out, it resulted in rapid growth, as you can imagine. So it was like 45% plus growth, which was great. And then we built some more people in as well. So essentially, that's the process. You can see if you were starting a business, that quiet space, Harvard of accelerators, you can see how they're starting to do positioning there. So what this series helps you do is identify what problem you're solving, how you're going to make your clients' lives better, what value you're going to add, and then on top of that, it's who are they buying into. So let's say not that any of you like to do this, let's say you're starting up a hairdresser or a coffee shop. Are you going to be unique on the high street? No. But do you have a preferred one? Yes, because there will be something that place has that the other people don't have. Even if it's the guy behind the counter is just like you and you like his T-shirts, I don't know, or her T-shirts. So you need to be able to find your unique thing. And your unique thing may be nobody else in the planet is doing this. And I have a lot of people come into those accelerators going, I've come up with this. Well, I've been at university and I've worked in this thing and I've come up with this. Nobody else in the planet is doing this. And myself and the other mentors will go, yeah, actually, there's probably about 3 other people that are doing this in America or Australia, because it's a global world now. So it's very rare that you're going to come up with something that is really, truly unique. So what you need to do is be able to unpack that. And the strongest organisations, trust me, are the ones where they've really worked out what their vision is and they can communicate that. I have sat in a lot of rooms where people have spent 15 minutes trying to explain to me what value they're going to give those clients. And if that's their elevator pitch, the person's left the room and shut the doors on them electronically. So another thing in my top book list from Amazon would be start with why. Not because Simon Sinek does that lovely bullseye thing and it has why in the middle and everything else, but because what it helps you do is say, what is going to keep me motivated to go home every night and keep coding rather than going out down to the pub and having pizza? Because, that's the choice. Or the latest game comes out. It's like, what's going to be more important than that to me? And then potentially, what's going to be more important to my team? Because if you want a load of people to join you and you're on a shoestring budget, then this is going to be something that is kind of exciting, that they're going to want to be part of, that they're going to want to work late into the night with you together on. And that's really important. And then, obviously, how does it benefit your potential clients? Now, this is a kind of little bit of a paraphrase of something here, the Wright Brothers. And being a woman in technology, I kind of like this story, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I'm guessing everybody here knows who the Wright Brothers are. Anybody know their first names? Just shout it out. Orville and Wilbur. Absolutely fantastic. Well done. Does anybody know who the guy on the left is?
James Justice Robinson.
Good guess. That guy is Samuel Pierpont Langley. And he was the guy that was supposed to develop flight. So he was the head of the Smithsonian at the time, which is a very prestigious organisation. He was a well-regarded engineer and he had the backing of the War Department, which is a bit like being backed by Bill Gates now. And he had a chief engineer who was the equivalent of Tesla. He had all the press following him. He was the guy that was supposed to do flight. But what he was chasing was being first to success and having his name be forever remembered in history. And obviously none of you know who he is, which is good. The Wright brothers did it because they wanted to connect people. And that means two blokes out of a bike shop in Dayton, Ohio, were the people that actually did that job. And the difference between those two was the vision that they managed to talk to their fellow townspeople with, because they were all in on it too. And the bit that I really love is twofold. One, this is what Bill Gates said about them. They created the single greatest cultural force since the invention of writing, and the aeroplane became the first World Wide Web, bringing people, languages, ideas and values together. That always makes me just a little bit choked up because, you just think, actually, yes, that was the first time people could actually travel easily. And now, everyday people can get on a plane for, a reasonable amount of money and travel across the world. The other part that I love is a woman called Sarah Wright, who was the daughter of a wheelwright and sat in her father's workshop learning the engineering trade. And Sarah was their mother. And their father was a bishop, and he went overseas and he brought back this middle model plane which inspired them, but it was Sarah that taught them engineering, and it was Sarah that they spent all that time at the feet of, who worked with them on the plane. And probably everybody's heard of Sarah about as much as they've heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley. So, this is the other thing that you will have to learn about. Because if you have a thing and you need to be able to define that thing, then the Strategizer series is really great, but that will just tell you maybe how to talk about it technically. And actually, that's not how people buy. So I'm, as well as a woman in technology, I'm autistic. And what that has meant for me is from the age of 16, I've studied psychology because I'm a Vulcan in a room full of humans. I didn't get how you guys worked. So unless you're neurodiverse, in which case you probably completely understand how I feel sometimes. But essentially, I did a lot of study from the age of 16. And there weren't that many books then. You know, it was maybe How to Influence and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. But what I discovered was really cool. So we have the Windows XP of brains. In fact, it's not even that good. It's Vista. We have Vista as an operating system. And what's interesting is that Vista operating system is more predictable than you think, and that you can learn its operating language. Now, I'm going to talk to you just for a little bit about that stuff. But I want to ask you to kind of make a deal with me, because if you do learn this, it's properly ninja level marketing. Like, you can influence people a lot with these kind of things. I know social engineering is very popular, but this is the same thing, but in marketing terms. And to me, this is really important, because the difference between influence and manipulation is who you're doing it for. If you are trying to help your client by influencing them to buy something that you know will help them, it's influence. It's a good thing. It's a win-win. If you've got some kind of back-of-the-cart thing that you know doesn't work and you've created a pretend demo, that is manipulation. So please do not listen if you're the second set of people. Is that okay? I'm just going to... Obviously, you'll carry on listening, because if you're the second set of people, pay no attention at all and you'll learn all this really cool stuff. So, logic versus emotion. You've been sitting down for a little while. Would you like all to stand up? Yep. Stand up. So, I'm going to talk to you very quickly. Who knows who Spock is? Awesome. He's a Vulcan, for those people who don't know what he is. So he's based on logic.
Half Vulcan.
Okay, half Vulcan. Half Vulcan. But essentially, this is how I feel a lot of the time. Logical on the outside, loads of emotion inside. But essentially, he will try and make decisions based on logic, and he will get loads of facts, and he will weigh the options, and he will make things like that. And then you've got chimp guy on the right. That's the gut feeling. It would be McCoy to his Spock. The one that is basically always going to take shortcuts and will believe fake news. Now, if you think that you mainly make decisions that are quite logical and that you'll be reasoned in your decisions, please sit down. Okie dokie. Now, if you think you mainly make your decisions based on gut feel and instinct, please sit down. Okay, now I used the word mainly here, so the rest of you think you're somehow perfectly balanced human beings, which is really interesting. But I'll let you sit down as well. It's an interesting thing, because in every talk I've done, except for ones where they're in psychology places, most people do the same thing. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about neuroscience, which I think is really interesting. That little P-shaped thing on the left, your amygdala, is kind of where your chimp lives. And the frontal lobe, let's say that's where your Spock lives. And the really interesting thing for me is that all of your senses, your sight, your sound, your touch, everything goes to the amygdala first, and it's faster, and it makes the decisions for you before your logical mind can even engage. So technically, it's really quite hard for you to make a logical decision that you haven't already made at some level emotionally. Now, some people go, really? I'm not logical? I'm pretty sure I'm logical. Now, everybody's gone into a phone shop, right, and bought a phone? Yeah? Did you pick it up, and if it was heavier, you thought that's probably good quality? Yes, you did, didn't you? Yeah, you did. Okay, so that's what your chimp. That's a decision on a operating system and a whole customer experience based on weight. Now, I love stuff like that. It's like, I think this is obviously already better quality because it's got a really fat battery on the back of it now, so I've probably improved its whole user experience. But essentially, the reason that 150,000-year-old brain works like that is, let's say a mugger ran into the room with a knife. It doesn't want you strategically working out the risks that they're going to be successful. It wants you out the door and running. And we operate a bit like that still. So that's why some people find public speaking really hard. Because you are on your own in front of a bunch of people that potentially could be adversarial. And it doesn't matter what your logical mind says, that's what your chimp is doing. Yeah? So we make quite a lot of modern day decisions based on primitive brain types. Now, what does that mean in terms of marketing? Well, it means there are certain things like center preference, like anchoring, and all those kind of things, which I haven't got time to go into fully here, that you can learn. And that Methods of Persuasion book talks about all of them. So there is a reason why you often get 3 options. You know, when you go to a checkout, 3 options, and one just seems too good to be true. Marketing. Or that lovely one where they say, oh, you know, it's going to be a really reasonable price. It's not like it's going to be £1 million. It's only going to be £150,000. Anchoring. So there is a whole heap of stuff that is very easy to learn. And when you learn it, not only are you better equipped to help promote your own product, but you're also better equipped to understand what people are trying to do when they either influence or manipulate you. Now, what does that mean in terms of running a company where you don't want to manipulate people? Or you want to build trust with people? Now, you've all bought stuff, yeah? Have you ever bought anything, unless you really had to because you had no other choice, no other outlet, that was from an untrustworthy person, where they make your skin crawl? Would you buy something from that person? No. Thank you. Thank you for the big shake, because I don't recognize micro expressions, so that's really helpful. Okay. So you don't buy stuff from people you don't trust. So why do we do things like referrals and test sites and trials and testimonials? Well, it's actually because it helps us show credibility. So trust involves credibility. Is this person that I'm going to buy something from credible? Co-interest is a really interesting one. If you can't see what's in it for the other person, does it make you feel slightly uncomfortable? Yeah. The amount of companies I've been to where they kind of go, oh, we're just so generous, it's just all for you, there's nothing in it for us at all. And you go, yeah. Bullshitometer! Woohoo! No, that isn't how it works, is it? You know that isn't true. So there is nothing wrong at all in saying what's in it for me is this big pot of money that you're going to give me, or what's in it for me is that you're going to give me a big pot of money and we'll do this if you're a referral site. It's absolutely fine, and that's how it should work. It should be a win-win scenario. And then the really core thing, which that marketing stuff will help you with, is the communication part. Now, our industry really loves to make up new words. And then if your customer can't keep up with the new words, they're dumb, right? No, that's not the case. If your customer can't understand what's in it for them, who is the person that's going to miss out? It's not the customer. So the communication part is really important, because if they don't get that you're credible because you can't communicate it to them, and if they don't get what's in it for them and what's in it for you, then the trust won't happen either. So that it's a triangle for a reason. You actually need all 3 things. So if you want a credible reputation, do not be this guy. I think I took that picture at InfoSec. No, I didn't. So this is the guy of the shiny disco balls and the smoke and mirrors, and you don't want to be sold to like that. I don't want to be sold to like that. There is a reason that people walk around with bingo cards at the big shows. We've all had them. So really, really simple for sales. You treat others like you want to be treated, and you build relationships. Now, if you haven't had experience of sales, that's fine. Like, Ian hired somebody in. If you build a business, you will probably end up hiring somebody in. But you'll probably, in the early stages, also have to go to those meetings. Now, you learn coding, right? Or you learn how to do whatever your current role is. This is the same. It is a learnable skill. I mean, you may not end up being, P.T. Barnum, hopefully not. But you can learn these skills. And a really good shortcut to learning what a trusted advisor looks like is having a look at some of the stuff by Charles H. Green. So essentially, the reason that we have grown so fast is we spend a lot of time sitting and listening to our clients. To give you one example of that, which I think I can share the military one, can't I? So when the military first became our clients, they used to spend about $800 per site, roughly. There was a row of about 3 sites that started buying our software. Couldn't really quite work out. And then we found out that it was this one guy that was going to different sites and saying, hey, you should try this thing. And he introduced it. It was really, really cool. And then we spoke to him and we said, we've got some new stuff coming up. He said, oh, come and talk to us about it. And we're like, you're spending $1,500. Right. So we spent probably about $5,000 flying out. And we learned what it was they were doing, and we improved the tool. The last order from the US military, single order, was $1.7 million. So this works, listening to what people want and then making sure that you can build that, plus what they might need next, is how we've grown our company. And it's also the easiest way to grow referrals is to do what you say and deliver on your promises. So 2 last things. I haven't really talked about the running a business part, the how do you measure things and the metrics and everything else. The sales and marketing, if you don't get that right, all of the other things can be almost a moot point. But it's amazing how many people trip up because they don't know how to manage those things. They don't know how to measure their people or how to get the best out of their people. So a business framework that is really, really awesome is one called Traction, and it covers everything. Not in detail, it's like a buffet of what you might need to run a business, but it will help you through 10, 3 and 1 year planning, which if you want to get an investor, and if you do want to get an investor, I'd recommend the best slide deck ever. It's like 10 slides to how to build an investment slide deck. It helps you with streamlining your people metrics, so understanding what people are good at and then getting the best out of them. And it helps you manage by numbers. So that you're not running on, do I like this guy because I went out with pizza last time, and Joe's a fabulous guy, and then you find out that actually he hasn't delivered the project. So Traction is a really great business framework, but it doesn't create great managers. It helps those managers thrive. Now, we're kind of out of time, but I will try and answer some questions, but we will be around. And essentially, there's the book list. The only one that I haven't covered is, because that's all about selling stuff and building a business and how to run it. The bit that's about the people is First Break All the Rules. And that is, quite honestly, one of the best books I've ever read on managing people. It's done by Gallup, so it's a pollster, and they assessed out of all of the most successful businesses and the most successful teams and the most successful managers within those teams, what were they doing? And they came up with 12 things that people need in order. And the first 2 are really simple. Do I know what's expected of me? And have I got the tools to do my job? And you'd be amazed how many businesses don't get that bit right. Or you might be working for some of them, in which case, not amazed at all. But anyway, thank you very much. Have we got time for a little question or 2? Awesome. So if you've got any questions of us, please feel free to chuck them this way. Okay.
Thank you, John. Right. On the sort of salesman persuasion front, I've met a couple of people in my life who could sell price-less notes.
Yes.
one of them was really charming, he was selling,
Yes.
quite obnoxious when he wasn't, and the other one was charming all the time.
Yes.
But I know lots of charming people who can't sell stuff. Have you seen what it is that they're doing differently? Do you have a feel for that?
Yes. It's normally in the delivery area. So I know a lot of very slick people that then don't deliver, and they may get through the door a couple of times, but then when you don't get what they promise you, then it tends to wear off quite fast. And there are people that I will go out again and again with for lunch, but I will never buy from them. But there's a whole heap of stuff, and I'm happy to cover that one-to-one, because that's a big thing to unpack. I think there was a question up there. Sorry, yeah.
How do you go about showing credibility if you're still after your first customer? So if you don't have like a client list to show who you've worked with?
So if you haven't got any customers at all, the easiest way to show credibility, which may or may not be possible for you, is to show that it does what it says on the can. So if you can do a trial, if you can do a demo type thing, if you haven't got any customers, there's something in it for you, might be the first reference site. So it may be that you go, do you know what? I'm so confident that this is going to work for you that I can see that you're going to have to invest some time to test it with me. I will invest my time and product for you for free while we test it. And then if you're happy with it in the second year, you carry on and pay for it. But would you be a reference site? Because, honesty is the best policy. Because at some stage they're going to realise that you're new and shiny, But that would be a very typical way of doing that, providing that you can fund it. Is that cool? Yeah.
If you are sort of personal people that have regular ideas, how do you keep track of those and bring them to fruition? Because for me, that's the hardest part, is actually fermenting them and making them into something.
Ian? Bingo brain, sorry.
Okay, so for me, I have a notebook. So when ideas pop into my head, I write them down, and I then don't do anything. I'm just kind of brain dumping into this book. And what I do is I then go back and review it later after a period of time has gone. Quite often I'll go, yeah, that's a stupid idea, and I'll end up scribbling a whole load out. But then there'll be some which actually I'll go, this is worth investing more time into and kind of going on. I think it's worth having that gap just so that you have time to come back down to earth, because sometimes when you have these things, they're not actually based in the real world.
and actually that's a really good point, because remember the emotional versus logical, that you're going to have an emotional response to your own idea and think it's brilliant. And as you haven't got a team to stop the groupthink happening, you're your own group, that gap very much helps you engage that logical thought processes. Yeah,
and it also helps me out as well, because I know Nicola spoke a little bit about being Roy Disney with me being Walt. It's kind of, I come up with these things that I think are great ideas. If I immediately told her, she'd immediately go, well, how are we going to do that? How's that going to work and stuff? And then in my head, that's a negative thing that then goes, I'm now feeling a bit sad that I said anything. So the process of me having a notebook and writing it all down in there before actioning anything, before going to Nicola, actually helps me out as well with my sanity.
It does mean I get to pop less of his balloons, which is really sad. No, it does. It's brilliant. Is that?
Yeah, it's one of them.
Yeah, so my question is, basically, I feel that a good product actually sells itself. Now, I know some people might have different opinions about this, but when starting a business, is it really important to actually have the sales arm running alongside the company, or invest in making sure you have the products?
So, you are kind of right. And that's what happened with Titania, because there was nobody else in the marketplace that somebody could go to. So people were really forgiving. If they were like, oh, this is weird, I wasn't quite expecting that. And they didn't have anybody to phone, so they just worked it out, didn't they? They kind of did that. But the thing is, a really good product does kind of sell itself in that if it does what it says on the can and it meets your needs and it adds value and you've got the cash there, of course you'll buy it. But will you buy it the next year and the next year and the next year after that? Because it's not a customer, it's a paying prospect. So your customer is everybody else's prospect for the thing that is like your thing. And if you're not there supporting them and making sure they get best value out of it, somebody will come along, and it may be somebody with a shiny disco ball, but they're busy talking to them. So your paying prospect may be lost. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'd say, when I started up Titania, I created a website myself, put what I thought was useful information on the website and so on and so forth. And the first few customers that we had were people that had used Google and just found the website and then worked out for themselves off my techie speak what it was the product actually did and then found it useful and came and bought the software. I think if we'd have carried on doing that, what would have happened was someone else would have said, oh, that's a really neat idea. They're doing it badly. We'll create something that's similar and market it better. And then Titania would have just disappeared off because we'd have been overtaken by someone else.
It's almost like that's happened before Betamax VHS.
So having a great product is great for getting a good start, but actually the marketing needs to kind of catch up.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, Nicola and Ian, that has been extremely informative, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.